What's up, everybody? We are back with another $2 deck tech for 2DH, format we created to have a new meta for Commander and to make the game more accessible to new players and players on a budget. I am back once again with Ryan. This time he's going to tell us about his Surrak Dragonclaw deck.
Hey everybody, so Surrak Dragonclaw. This deck is based around ETB effects, around a total of 42 creatures, all with an effect when they enter the battlefield. The reason Surrak was chosen is because the ability to not be countered and have all my other creatures that I want to see the battlefield not be countered. Besides that, it's always nice to have a 6/6 body on a 5 mana cost with flash. This deck is based around busting a few cards that are legal in this format. Deadeye Navigator, super strong, under $2, one that's one of the strongest cards in the format, followed up by the Prophetic Crucifix. Easy to bust when you have a handful of creatures and enough mana, since we're playing green, to play them all out each turn. A few other effects that I like are Crystal Shard, an Erratic Portal, doing the same thing, either helping me disrupt my opponent's early game or returning to the creatures to my hand so I can play them again for more enter the battlefield effects. These go well with a card like Dual Nature. This is actually what the deck was originally inspired by. When one of my creatures enters the battlefield, I get two triggers, two creatures. This goes for everybody, so people don't think of it as a huge threat right away until you start laying down a couple haymakers that immediately get copied for free. The only counter that I run in this deck is a Mystic Snake. That is because it's a creature. When Surrak is in play, it's an uncounterable counterspell that I can return to my hand with either Crystal Shard or Erratic Portal. And it helps me make sure that I get one of my few spells through that can help seal and win the game. To start, I'm going to talk about one other fun card that you will see in this format sometimes, and that is Guided Passage. It allows you to let an opponent take a creature, a land, and a non-creature, non-land card from your library and put them in your hand. Odds are you're going to get a tapped land, a mana ramp spell, and another creature, which actually is a mana ramp spell for this deck, so it's not too bad. Speaking of the mana ramp spells, we're playing green. We're going to play the usual package of green mana ramp. Since I am playing a creature-oriented ETB deck, the next mana ramp package is full of creatures and card draw. So we got card draw to start here. Seagate Oracle helps you dig, Elvish Visionary lets you dig, the Sphinx. A Mole Drifter, evoked with a copy effect in play, will allow you to draw 4 for 3, which is super awesome, super fun. Other creatures are the Eidolon Blossoms, can let you draw 4 for 4 if you only have 1 copy effect. If you have 2, it can be an insane 9 for 5. I'll talk about that more later. Just some more card draw, and then into the mana ramp package. Once again, all of these can be twice as fun when you have a dual nature or another copy effect in place. You can ramp super hard, super fast, just using tiny creatures. Playing lands, though, won't win you the game. We need some other game plans, and in the early game, we play just a little bit of disruption. The first 3 I'm going to talk about here are the Recursion creatures that when they enter play, opponents will have to sack unless they pay mana. 1 for the Cut Purse, 2 for the Footpad, and 3 for the Brigand. And this is sweet because early in the game, especially in this format, people are trying to play out their mana ramp spells, getting all their artifacts into play. You drop one of these and they're starting to have to sack lands or sack utility creatures. If you have a copy effect, they might be sacking 2 things a turn, which can help us. More ETB effects that help us disrupt our opponent are Flame Kavu, Tuck to destroy artifacts, Rex Sage can destroy artifacts or enchantments, Acidic Slime, artifacts, enchantments, or lands. Caller the Claw is there to help us if we get board wiped. Since we play 42 creatures in this deck, it can be a huge amount of bears coming into play. Extremely hilarious and fun if you have a dual nature or another copy effect in play, because you're doubling the effect of the Caller the Claw. Our Chiromancer is here to return a few spells, which I'll talk about at the end of this. They're all huge haymakers and game winners, so it's nice to be able to try to cast those twice if need be. Mindclaw Shaman lets you look at your opponent's hand, see what you're playing around, and get rid of a pesky board wipe. Deadwood Treefolk enters the battlefield and leaves the battlefield, allowing us to return creatures from our graveyard to hand. Once again, we run a bunch of creatures, very few other spells, so it's nice to have all our creatures fulfill the roles of Recursion or Tutor, such as the Wooden Bellower, Fierce Empath, or Brutalizer Exarch. The next pile we're going to talk about are the Haymakers, the big boys. We're going to mana ramp hard and hopefully be getting these guys out turn 4 or turn 5. But you got cards like a Molten Primordial, a Hornet Queen, a Broodigan Hellkite. This is totally busted with Deadeye Navigator. For 2 mana, you're dealing 5 damage divided up however you choose. Can be a complete game winner at that moment. Also, if we copy it with any other effects, it is very powerful. One of those effects, you can always just copy it with Clone or any of the other big cards we're talking about here. Conquering Manticore allows us to take control, play opponent's spells since we're not playing our own, destroy opponent's lands, destroy opponent's enchantments or artifacts. We're not worried about them having creatures since we are playing more creatures than they are. Once again, we want to play their spells since we're not playing our spells. Diluvian Primordial helps us with that. Who doesn't like a 7/7 worm that lets us gain life and draw a card? Enough said. Battlesphere, when you're copying this, you're putting 8 tokens into play. It allows this to swing for a lot of damage. Frost Titan help us lock out opponents out of the game, and Inferno Titan can help us burn the pesky little creatures. Pesky tiny little 1/1s or tokens don't mind too much since Surrak does give all of these big boys trample, which is quite useful. As for the spells we use in this deck, they are normally based around copying our creatures so we get their ETBs again. Twin Flame is one of these, can copy 1 or up to more creatures depending how much mana we pump into it. Rite of Replication on a Borderland Hellkite or a Frost Titan can allow you to lock down opponent if used for its kicker cost or just burn them out. For example, on the Borderland Hellkite, you'll be burning them for 25 just by the creatures entering the battlefield. Clone Legion. If we happen to be behind a huge board state, we can clone an opponent's board state, but we more use this to clone our board state, once again recopying all our ETB effects. Conjurer's Closet allows us to use the ETBs each turn. As of Dual Nature, it's always nice to have a couple cards that do the same effect, just because we're building it around that. And we have Flame Shadow Conjuring and Minion Reflector. These we have to pay a little bit of mana into them, but it's not that big of a deal since we're ramping. We are in green, we'll have the mana to spare. Card draw engine here. A lot of our creatures are power 4 or greater, allows us to keep our hand full. Also, haste is a huge bonus when you're playing things like Clone Legion or any of our big creatures. Elemental Blonde is another card draw engine. Wild Pair can allow us to be doing 2-for-1s to the creatures out of our hand, and Warstorm Surge can be a backup win con. This deck has a few weaknesses. Some of those weaknesses are things like Sphere of Safety or anything that allows us not to aggro swing with a massive board state. Warmth or Surge can work around these by burning players to the face when need be. Once again, this deck is a counterless deck except for Mystic Snake, runs 42 ETB effects, all of which that can't be countered due to our general and that we try to abuse the most of with cards allowing us to copy them or recast them as many times as possible.